And then I say, yo, my fellow descendants, this is what. Are you tired of constantly dying in this game? In the First Descendant, dying can be frustrating both for you and your teammates, but with basic knowledge of defense in this game, you can turn yourself into a nearly unstoppable force. Now, since I know there are a lot of new players in this game, and I am pretty sure more will come, I figured I would go over the basics to help new descendants from getting shredded after 5 seconds into a fight. So let's get it. Now, what you've been seeing in the background gameplay is me fighting one of the most annoying intercept bosses in the game, at least in my opinion. But I can never die to this boss because I have the right build. However, when I was new to the game, just like many of you, I used to get shredded by this boss. Not anymore. I'm not telling you all this just to tell you go use my build or whatnot. I'm telling you this just to let you know all of that means nothing if you don't know the basics of what make up defense in this game. That being said, here's the most important thing you need to know about defense in this game. The health stat will be your best defense layer no matter how you look at it. This does not mean the other stats are not important. It just means no matter what you do, it is best to prioritize the health stat. Having said that, what are the defensive stats you need to know in this game? Now, the overall defense in this game will comprise of the following stats, starting with the health stat. Health will increase your overall durability, and like I said, you need to prioritize the health stat first and foremost. Next is defense, and I mean the defense stat. Very controversial in this game. As a stat, defense will reduce incoming damage, but you will notice in a lot of build videos, people can forego defense and they will be just fine. One thing to note is that there is a diminishing return in this game when it comes to defense. Basically, there is a threshold, and when you get to that number, defense does not matter anymore. I don't know what that number is because there are so many theories in this community that I stopped paying attention. But I will say this, every stat in this game matters, and that includes the defense stat as well. So I always make sure that I have at least some of it rather than having zero of it. That's my philosophy, and I have been doing all right so far. Additionally, when it comes to defense as a stat, too much defense is not always going to be beneficial for most characters in this game, but it will, without a doubt, benefit some characters. For instance, defense will benefit Ajax tremendously. Next is shield. Shield will act as a buffer for your health bar, but in this game, shield is kind of crappy unless you are specifically using a shield build, which is what you see me using in the background gameplay. And finally, resistance. Resistance will reduce the impact of specific damage types, be it chill, electric, toxin, or fire. So, knowing all of that, how do you increase your survivability? So first, let's go to the in-game stat graph. So if you go to your character inventory, go to Descendant, and you can see on the bottom where it says Show Stat Graph. So all you gotta do is just press and hold the corresponding button like I do here, and you will see that stat graph shows up. Got defense on top, max HP, max shield. And those are the 3 stats that we mentioned earlier, and it does not include resistances. But as you can see, there's this little sheet right here, and there's a number by each stat, defense and max shield, and also on the bottom you see max HP. So every character in the game will have a base stats that the game starts them with, and in this case we are concerned about the HP. For Sharon, for instance, the game gives her a base stat of 810. And this number, in conjunction with the component number, is going to make up the total health pool for that character. So this is how you know if a character is a HP character, a shield character, or is a defense character. So if I go and look at another Descendant, let's say this guy, and you can see that when we compare the two, you can see that he's got a big defense compared to Sharon, right? So you can say, okay, this is a defense character, but you also see that he's got a bigger health base than Sharon. So if you're going to build a character, you can decide to build them based on how much health you want to give them or how much defense, depends on the character. So every character is going to be different. So if you look at this one in comparison to Sharon, you can see there's a difference in the number of base stats that they give them. So that's how you know about the base stats, and this is where we're going to calculate the base stats. Now, let's say, for instance, like I said, all the components come with flat numbers. So look at all your components, it comes with a flat number. In this case, like I said, we are trying to make sure that we prioritize health. That's the reason why all my components will have health on them. Max HP, max HP, max HP, max HP. So I make sure I have HP on all of them because I prioritize health. And this one, the auxiliary, has 2 HP stats. So that gives me a bigger health pool. So this is a flat number. So if you look at the number right here, this is the total number. Now this number is the final number that when you multiply the modules with the flat numbers, it gives you that number. So let's say, for instance, right now you see it's 13,720.98, right? So if we go to the Descendant module, and then I'm going to take out the increase HP and take it off, increase it. And now you can see I end up with 4,308. Now, how do we get that 4,308? It is a combination of all the health that we get from the components. That does not include the reactor. The reactor doesn't have health. So it is just those 4 components that gives you the health, and with the base stats that they give the character that we saw in the stat graph. So to demonstrate that for you, I make this little dandy sheet that you can look at the calculation. So auxiliary has those 2 health numbers, so I add all of them together. So when you add all of them together, you can see at the end, you got that 4,308 that you see on the character sheet, right? Now, when you add that increased HP, which is a percentage, you're going to multiply that percentage by that flat number that you get from the total of all the other numbers with the character. And you're going to end up with 9,412.98. So when you add those 2 numbers together, that's how you end up with 13,720.98. That's how the game calculates the HP. Now, you can go and check the number if you want. I'm not a math genius, but I'm pretty sure that's how they got the number. Now, let's talk about resistances, which is another layer of defense that you can add, especially when you are going to fight intercept bosses, because they can shred you real easily. So I'm going to use an example with the processor because it's got toxin resistance, but every component that you see will come with a resistance. I believe this come with chill resistance, and this come with fire, and this come with electric. So this processor comes with toxin. So if you want to scale your toxic resistance, then you are going to find the number from here, from this one. So in this example, we're going to use this number right here. So when it comes to resistance, there are also a lot of factors. There are some other stats in the game that can add to the resistance, but you'll get the gist of things. So if you, sometime the inversion thing can add some stat, but you'll see the number will be close to what we were trying to do. So when you come to your Descendant sheet, you're trying to scale your resistance based on the boss that you're going to fight. And in this example, we're going to use maximize toxic resist. This is a percentage resistance. By itself, it is not going to do anything for you. Combined with the flat numbers that you get from your components, then that's going to make a huge difference. For instance, if we go to the info sheet, you can see right here, I have this number right here. So if we go back to the Descendant sheet and then we equip this module, save it, And then if we go back to the sheet, you can see that we have 10,553. So that's how this works. So if you know which resistance that you need, then you just use the right module, then you are good to go face those bosses. Now, in this example, we only use the toxic resist, but bear in mind that there are other ones like chill, fire, and etc., etc. But there are also some other immunity. Those are the smaller number. You can use those as well. And you also have flat numbers for resistances. So if you don't want to multiply them, then you can just use a flat number like this one right here. You can just add this one. But in order for you to scale this one, you have to multiply it with something else. And that means if I wanted to use two different modules, like a flat number here, and then also a percentage number here, I can put both of them in the module slot, and then I would get my resistance from there. You can do it that way. But it is easier to do it in the components and also the module. That way you're not losing a slot for other things important. Now, here's why resistance is important. So if we go to the map, and then you look at a void fight, let's say for instance, this guy right here, the most annoying boss in my opinion. So you can see that the game shows you the recommendation for resistance. It's 7,800. But with my setup, I have 10,553, which means I am safe. This guy cannot kill me, and because of my build. But I add the resistance on there, then it makes it even harder for that boss to kill me. But if you look at another boss, let's say for instance Deathstalker, and you can see that the resistance is 10,000. So the higher you go in when it comes to the boss ladder, then you can see the resistance and the recommendation is probably going to be higher. So this one required 10,000 and I'm only 553 over. So that means I'm a little safer than I would have been. That doesn't mean if you don't have the resistance, then you are SOL. But you are taking a big risk and you're going to be one that can get shredded real fast if you don't have the proper resistance. So the moral of the story is, so if you know how to scale your defense, then you are going to be okay. And there are different modules for defenses, shield, whatever you need to do. Just make sure that you use those tips and you should be good to go. That said, it's very important to customize your build based on the enemies that you are facing. More specifically, NSF bosses. This is where you will see most people getting shredded when they don't have the necessary resistance. All in all, I believe if you implement these tips into your setup, you will be better equipped to handle what the First Descendant throws at you. The game is not too challenging, but it can become a challenge if you can survive. And the key to survival is preparation. Just make sure you experiment with different defensive module setup just to find out what works best for your playstyle. Anyway, if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos like this one. And most importantly, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. 감사합니다.